Hi, I'm Jeremy, I'm a writer, and I make videos about all things imaginary. This week, it's another video all about LARPing. So I'm back and finally rested from my third LARP ever. It's the same LARP I've been going to, a fantasy LARP here in Southern California called Twin Mask, where all the players play characters, hero and villains from the past of this fantasy world who have now been brought back from the dead, brought back to life, and have to deal with not only each other, our enemies and allies, but also the really dangerous world around us, and kind of unravel the mystery of our existence and deal with just all the dangers that we've got to face. At this LARP, I play a roguish, scholarish type pirate named Caliban Sidero, and this game was a really big game for me, both out of character and in character. I have a ton of thoughts to share, and because I've been really enjoying making these LARP videos, and I want to keep improving the videos that I'm making and the kind of lens that you're getting into this world and into my experiences, I actually filmed a little bit of prep video related to one of my big character goals for this game before I went to the game. So let's take a look at that. It's the night before my third LARP session ever. I'm headed back to Twin Mask as the same character I was playing before. One of the main things that I'm involved with right now is that there's some shuffling around going on in the government of Port Frey. Port Frey is the city in the world that our LARP takes place in, at least right now. And since my character was someone who spent a lot of time out on the water, was a pirate, and many other things, just maritime in general, he's really comfortable in this port city, but I'm still new to the game. I'm just looking... Oops, let me turn this off. I'm still new to the game, so I'm still looking to establish myself and get more involved with things, both in character and out of character. I just want to be more involved in the game world, and Caliban, my character, wants the same thing. He wants to have a better handle on everything going on. And so I thought, what better opportunity than to try to become the harbor master of Port Frey. So I got it approved by the staff. They said that right now is an NPC position, but they were okay with opening it up to a PC. And at the last game, in the second session, I actually talked to the governor of Port Frey about the prospect in-game, and he seemed to think it was an interesting, worthwhile idea. We connected between that game, which was in December, and now, which is February, and he told me kind of what I would have to do to try to get this position. So it's already approved of by staff, but of course that doesn't guarantee that I'm in character going to be able to get the position and be approved by the parties that need to approve it. So one of the main things I had to do was write this in-character letter stating kind of what the position of Harbor Master would entail, why I think I'd be a good fit for it, how much I get paid for it, all that kind of stuff. And so you can see I'm just working on it right now, trying to make sure that the font is interesting and that the font, you know, looks kind of in-world, and making this deliverable as something I'll bring into the world, just as one part of the prep that I'm doing.
2 hours later.
All right, well, I'm actually pretty happy with how this looks, actually. It's a lot more legible in real life than it seemed on the computer. So, yeah, I'm excited about this. Now, after I'd written the letter, I didn't feel like it was enough to just have it written and even look like handwriting font, but be on plain white printer paper. So I wanted to make it look like it really belonged in the era, it belonged in this fantasy setting. And so that's just what I tried to do. I'm gonna take this letter and coffee stain it just to make it look a little better, but I am not an arts and crafts kind of person. I'm terrible at this stuff, so I've got some coffee brewing. We're gonna see how this goes. I don't even drink coffee, so I had to look up how to make the pot of coffee. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. I've got my tray here, and we'll see what the result is. That's not enough. One sheet first. I don't know if I left it long enough. This is definitely not my strong suit.
I think it looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
If I get the hang of this, though, I could even use it to make props for D&D. It's going in the oven. There. Time for it to come out. It looks pretty good. That's pretty good. I can at least hand it like this. Nice. I'm gonna try burning the edges on this one. It's super brittle now after the oven. I think that looks pretty good. That's why you make 2 copies. Ruined that one. Okay. That's too bad. I guess burning's a bad idea. Alright, and we have here the second set. I forgot to crumple these, so they don't have the same, great textured feeling. So I threw them back in the oven for a little bit, and they look way better. Not only do they feel a lot more dry, but this one, which I crumpled afterward, is retaining a lot of the texture. And I don't think I'm gonna call it. I think that's pretty good. I'll probably use the first one here where I burn off the bottom, and then I can roll them up like I wanted to first. And now I've got my letter.
Despite the mishap and my kind of crafty clumsiness, I did manage to get the letter together. I delivered it in-game and was really happy with how it turned out. I delivered it to the governor, who then presented it to the parliamentary government that kind of oversees the, entire governmental structure of the city that we're in during court, which is one of the main events that takes place over the course of the weekend. And unfortunately, the position didn't get approved right away because our city has a treaty with the native elf, essentially, though in our world they're called Offendal. An elf is kind of a slur against them. So the Offendal tribes that are native to this area, or have been here for a lot longer at least than our government, have a treaty that everything must go through the Offendal Council first, so my letter is now off to them. But hopefully between now and next game in March, there will be some progress on that, and I'll know and hopefully be a little bit closer to becoming the harbor master of Port Frey. Despite that, it was still really cool. Having that as a major character goal over the course of the weekend gave me something really, tangible to focus on, and it gave me a lot of roleplay opportunities with other characters who are either linked and related to naval travel or deal with ships and the like, or are just business related, right? And might be able to help me on the business side to make the port generate profit or see an opportunity for themselves to earn a little coin by dealing with the harbor master, future potential harbor master, and figuring that side out. That was my main in-game plan and course of action, but there were some other really cool things that happened over the course of the game that weren't really things I'd planned going in. Just to tell you a little bit about the weekend, I don't want to spoil too much, but essentially there was a big problem with the kind of flow of magic, the ley lines in this last game, and that meant that there was a lot of disruption of magical energies. And one of the key elements that happened throughout the weekend, one of the key things, were these magical rituals that the players were essentially planning in order to resolve some other issues with dark, dangerous forces that were encroaching into our world and threatening the town that we're all in. On Friday, which is the first day of the game, it starts Friday night, and that night, one of the key things that happened was a ritual to try to divine the source of the obstruction. And one of the key things that happened was a ritual to try to divine the source of the obstruction, what was causing all these issues with the magic, right? What was obstructing the ley lines, and was there someone or some entity behind it all? And I assisted in this. I happened to be in the right place at the right time when the player who was leading the ritual, who's been in the game for a long time, decided and came up with the idea to do this, to use a new spell he'd been developing, and sent us to gather other new players, because the new players had the kind of connection to the magical veil necessary for the ritual to be executed. It's a really cool way to make sure that new players coming into the game stay involved and get involved with bigger plot elements like this. And it's definitely something that they've been trying to do since I first started coming to game, and I think since a little bit before, making sure that as a new player you've got a hook, a reason to be involved with bigger things, so that the more established players and characters actually come and seek you out instead of just resolving everything on their own. And all the players I've met at the game are really good about making sure that there are opportunities for new players to get involved in the things that are going on and bringing you into the process if they see you kind of lurking at the edge or being interested and uncertain whether you can step in or not. So I'm assisting this mage, and we're walking around town, and we're starting to gather people to do this ritual. And in the lead up to all this, he first does a smaller ritual kind of his own, channeling his own magics, just to try to get some answers about what's going on so that he knows how to frame this later bigger ritual that he wants to do. And unfortunately, when he did that, he suffered a major backlash of magic due to the issue with the ley lines that I was talking about. And my character happened to be close enough to him at the time that I actually got caught up in that backlash. And one of the things about my character, which I haven't explored yet and hadn't planned on exploring so soon, is that my character actually has magical talent, but that it's never really arisen. It never awakened. Up to this point in his history, there's never really been the opportunity, he's never really had the understanding to explore his magical talent or to realize that he had it. But when this backlash happened, one of the essentially game masters, I guess, I don't know if there's a proper term for them, but told me when I asked how it would interact with my character's specific build and situation, that this backlash, which not only caused us grave damage, but actually gave us mana temporarily, would give my character mana. And so all of a sudden, my character realized that he had this mana within him, or at least he knew that something was different, something was changed. And in the conversations I had afterward with other mages, and that mage specifically, Alistair, I realized that, oh shit, I guess I've got magic. I guess I've got this new set of power of ability that I don't know anything about. And one of the interesting layers of the game is that when you join the game, typically you start off with memory problems, which means you don't really remember much of your life before the unique circumstances of the game world and the time that you immediately appear in the world that we're in now. So my character doesn't remember too much about his life before the last few games that I've played, right? He doesn't remember his backstory or history that much, but even from what he remembers, he knows that the magic doesn't really fit anywhere. It doesn't make sense to him that he ever had magic. The small fragments of memories he has don't corroborate, don't fit in with this idea of him now having magic. And so that was a really fun thing I got to dig into and roleplay through Friday, on top of being involved with this really major ritual with a whole bunch of new players and some experienced players, where we got to work together and interpret visions that we received throughout the game to try to, level out the flow of magic and figure out what was wrong and what was going on. And that was really my Friday. That took me until super late into the night, until about, I think, 4 or 5 a.m., role-playing with people and having these experiences and meeting all the new people that had come through to the game. And man, there were really a lot of new players, but I think it's a big part of what made this last game specifically very cool. This was definitely the most players they've ever had at a game. I think I heard that there were over 170 new players alone, people who had never been to this LARP before, coming for the first time, on top of all the other players that typically come, and we were around 300 people this game, and that's just from, anecdotal numbers that people were sharing based off what they were seeing at registration and the like, and it was somewhere over 300 this past game. Because of the setting where we have actual buildings on site, since the site is kind of a permanent fairground, right? It's a permanent fairground with these buildings that are owned by individuals. It gives it more of a feel and look like of a town than if it was just all tents. And with that many people, it definitely added to the feeling. It made the game feel a a lot bigger, made it feel like you were actually stepping into a world. Before, you could feel like you would know everybody or that you would recognize everyone on the street, but with the mass of players there this time, I think it's impossible now to know everybody playing, whether it's in character or out of character. Probably for some of the older players, it's been true for a while, but even me, I only started playing in November, and in the 3 games I've played, I've definitely seen a massive ramp up in the number of people coming to the game. Like I said, I think it helped make this game really immersive, and now 3 games in, I think I'm starting to get the hang of how to actually have a good time at the game beyond the external factors. With the second game I went to, I actually didn't even make a video about it. I didn't have as good of a time. I didn't really get to do as much, and that was mainly because I only went for 1 day and didn't even stay for that long the day that I went because I was too tired to camp overnight, or I think I just couldn't. There were some other issues with my camping for some reason that I just couldn't camp there that weekend, and I didn't really enjoy it as much. It wasn't immersive. I kept thinking about when I had to leave, and so this time I made a point of going there and camping out and really having the full overnight immersive experience. I think it's really key to having a good time. It's important to have goals for your character too, and it's important to make a point of interacting with more people and trying to get involved with the game itself. But if you're going to an overnight LARP, if the experience is built in of having this multi-day experience, being there overnight is key, and I'm really glad that I went because I almost didn't go overnight this time. I almost didn't camp out. The main reason was that it was just too cold. I was worried about how cold it was. There were, signs of rain, and it did end up raining a lot in the mornings there, and that made it really uncomfortable. In fact, I definitely need to edit my costume for next game, even if it's going to be warmer, just so that I have better things to wear and that I'm better prepared to handle the cold. But I was really worried about what that might be like, and so I almost didn't go because I didn't want to camp out. I'm a pretty inexperienced camper. I didn't want to deal with the rain and with potential mud and all of that. But fortunately, I thought that, hey, I could set up my car for camping instead, right? I could camp just inside my car and sleep there for the course of the weekend. And so that's what I did. And I actually even filmed some clips of me preparing for that and getting my car ready before I left. It's morning of, getting close to the afternoon now. I'm pretty much all set to go, but last minute change of plans. I decided not to camp out at the show. I'll still be there overnight. I'm just not going to put up a tent because I'm a very inexperienced camper and I'm a little worried about the rain. So instead, I'm going to take my trusty car and I'm going to camp out in the car. My car is kind of perfectly set up for camping. It's huge. It's a big SUV. And now I'm starting to get set up. I've got a little bit of like a small comforter down, yoga mat for a little bit of extra padding. I think this is actually going to turn out pretty well, pretty comfortable. I've never really tried this before. I've slept in my car, but never with any preparation beforehand. So, yeah, a little bit extra, a little bit more than I expected. All right, so here it is, all set up. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. I've got my full kind of sleeping setup on this side. I've got my storage and bags over there. Got my main kind of costume piece here. And then this is going to get loaded up with water and stuff right over here so that I can just pop this open and access it. It turned out pretty good, actually. I'm really happy with it. And I think this should be a comfortable, fun weekend. Excited to try this out. Now, after the fact, I can tell you that car camping was really great. It was really comfortable. I was pretty warm in the car, probably a lot warmer than I would have been in the tent. And it was just really convenient. I didn't have to take extra time to set up or tear down my camp. I could just take my car, leave everything in there for an extra day so that I could rest at home before starting to clean it up and put it back to normal. The location was the only thing that was a little bit unfortunate. I wasn't that close to the restrooms, which was a little bit inconvenient. But there's a lot of other people, I think, staying in the cars too, so it still felt very communal, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm actually thinking about continuing to do that for future games. And yes, I am definitely considering and thinking about going to more games in the future. I loved my first game. The second game left me a little bit lukewarm, but now after this third game, I'm kind of back into being really, really enthusiastic about this. It's left me with a really good feeling about the LARPing and about this community of LARPers in this game in particular. And I'm just interested in seeing how things might develop and how my character might progress in the future. I've been slowly working on improving my costume. That's one part that I've definitely wanted to do more with, and so I picked up a sword at this game and some other small pieces that I'm going to be tinkering and continuing to improve. Unfortunately, I didn't get any really great pictures of me, or there at least haven't been any uploaded online yet. But if I do see any cool pictures, hopefully I'll make a plan to get some next time, so that the next time I make one of these videos after or around the game in March, you'll get to see my full character costume. So yeah, I'm really enjoying Twin Mask. I'm really enjoying being Caliban Sidero, being this kind of scholarly pirate. And there's a lot of character plans and things that I don't really want to talk about, that I want to see where they lead in the next few games. And hopefully after they happen, I'll be able to report back and give you guys the scoop. I did get to do some really fun stuff as well as a non-player character, as an NPC Saturday night. I spent most of that night in the main combat scenes as an NPC. I got to be a spectral knight going around with a shield and sword and a small group of 5 or 4 other spectral knights, and we were, I think, terrifying the town, walking around with our shields and batting them with our swords in rhythm, because they're these kind of foam boffer swords, making a super loud, consistent drum beat, essentially, and the whole town kept having to rally against us. And just the 5 of us, we were able to hold off like 20, 30 players for a good amount of time every time that we spawned, and then later we joined the main combat with the other wider forces, these essentially specters, and it was really fun to get to feel like we were the elite forces of that group. So even though combat is not usually my favorite thing, it is something I enjoy, but it's not my favorite part of the game. It was really fun to get to play it in that role as an NPC and get to be creepy and scary and put the players in some really difficult situations. So yeah, I mean, I hope you like this video. I hope you like these videos about the LARPing and all of that. I'd really like to make more of them. They definitely fall under this umbrella of talking about imaginary topics, because that's what I'm trying to do, making videos about all things imaginary and creative. If you're interested in the game and you're in the Southern California area or even a little further out, check out Twin Mask. That's what it's called. Go to twinmask.com. You can see the rule book there. There's a whole bunch of information. It's a really, really fun and cool game with a great community that's open and, like I said, kind of welcoming and makes it easy to get involved. And one of the things I really love about the game is that you can really kind of be a wide variety of things. There's half dragons and fae and normal humans and pirates and knights. It's a pretty diverse setting, but it doesn't break any of the immersion. It doesn't feel like it's all hodgepodge together. It actually feels like a pretty cohesive world despite the variety, and I think it makes the world that much richer for it. So I'll probably make more of these videos as I continue to improve my costume, and as I go to more games, and hopefully, get some more pictures and footage to share with you guys about that time and those experiences. So if you checked out, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Friday with another video. So, thanks for watching, and if you do want to keep up with more of these videos or the D&D videos and videos on other topics that I make sure you subscribe. I make a new video every Friday, and yeah, I guess I'll see you next week.